A rising Terran player meets one of the world's greatest Zergs. What I've got for you today is a best of 3 series on brand new maps, of course played with the new multiplayer balance patch for StarCraft 2. Now, spotted right here in the top right hand corner. You know him, you love him. Playing for some reason in yellow, we have none other than SHIN. His opponent down in the bottom left, playing with the red Terran SCVs, we have none other than Nicoract. Now, in case you're unfamiliar with Nicoract, he's a 22-year-old Terran player who's been grinding the game for years, and he's been steadily climbing up and up and up when you look at the global rankings. As of right now, he is considered to be the number 37 globally, which is honestly very impressive, especially considering where he was, like maybe 4 to 5 years or so ago. SHIN, of course, an absolute beast. He's been consistently one of the top 10 players in StarCraft 2 since like 2011 or so. And I guess that's basically when Nicoract was like 8 years old, okay? SHIN has been one of the very best in the game since the very early Wings of Liberty days. And of course, he's got like $300,000 in tournament earnings. He's been doing well for himself over the years, and he is still ranked amongst the very best. Now, I haven't seen either of these two players play on the new balance patch just yet, so should be nice to get a good update as to where they currently are. I gotta say though, the last few times I did see Nicoract play, he was very impressive. So hopefully this series is not gonna be any different. For now though, we are starting off on the map Magnetic North, map number 1 in this best of 3. Quick command center on the low ground after the barracks right over here inside of the main base. A Reaper will be coming up here in just a second. We can use that for some early game scouting. Here it is. Right. Ah, it rallied on the wrong side. Can't believe it. All right, anyways. Overlord in the meantime also is heading on over towards the natural expansion. And it looks like Magnetic North, I didn't even realize this yet. I did cast a game on it so far, but I believe that was a Terran versus Protoss. It has a pervert pillar. Look at that. It's for Zerg players to peep on the opponent. Oh god. SHIN, of course, still plays with the Diva announcer. Loses a single drone right over there. That's a little bit sloppy. These pillars, though, have become relatively uncommon. We used to see them all the time in StarCraft 2. If you look at some of the earlier maps, a couple of Zerglings now being a nuisance as well on the other side. Where'd the Marine go? There it is. Zerglings trying to be as annoying as they possibly can be. Maybe even forcing the Reaper back home would be really, really nice. For now, though, yeah, with the Reaper distracted, a third base is going to get acquired right here for SHIN, and he should be able to continue building up his macro very, very nicely. It looks like Jimmy actually does have 2 confirmed kills. So those Zerglings, they are nowhere to be seen anymore. But these pillars, they have disappeared over the years. Maybe it's because across the board right now, it's a little ironic, right? Because the world champion of StarCraft 2 is a Zerg player. But across the board, it does seem that Zerg is struggling more than the other 2 races. At least if you look at the statistics, it's pretty clear that Zerg players, even at the highest level, are somewhat struggling. Serral really just a statistical outlier as per usual though, so it's one of those situations where you never really can take the stats too seriously, but maybe that's one of the reasons here why the map maker is indeed allowing this pillar up on the high ground yet again. I wonder if there's some more. Yeah, there's another one right over here that you can also park an Overlord on top of. It's funny, they used to be so common on maps, but then as time went on, as Zerg was winning basically everything for some years, slowly but surely they faded away. This map does not have any watchtowers or anything along those lines. Ha, I quite like this though. I've now seen this a few times on the new patch. Rather than going into the cloaking field upgrade, Terran players are prioritizing hyperflight eroders. A bunch of Zerglings in the meantime are sneaking around the left side of the map. The dancing with the queens is not going all too well, and that means that maybe some real damage can be done. Although 2 reinforcing Hellions did just pop out of the factory. Alright, 2 SCVs here. 3 SCVs in total. Hellions also once more pushed home. Not the end of the world right here for Nicoract at all. This, in case you're unfamiliar, it's become a shorter research time in the new balance patch. It's the same cost as the cloaking field. So if you know that the opponent is going to be making blind spore crawlers almost every time anyway, maybe because they will always have detection in the form of those spore crawlers, maybe it's actually better right now to just go straight up storm. Yet again, the Zerglings swoop in. Banshee does get scouted as well because of it, so we can at the very least get those spore crawlers, yeah, in the middle of the mineral lines. Sometimes we see Zerg players positioning them a little bit more aggressively in case it would be... Oh, we're playing Mech. In case we're going up against, say, for example, a Liberator opener. This is going to be straight up Banshee Mech. Alright. So do we keep pumping them out? Normally, right, you make... Normally you make 2 of the Banshees because you can build exactly 2 during the Cloaking Field upgrade research time. So that's kind of the norm. You can also use 2 to one-shot workers, like what we're seeing right over here. But if you're playing Mech, nice snipes over here by the way, 4 drones is not bad. If you're playing Mech, you may as well keep pumping them out. I'm always a fan of these heavy Banshee compositions, but we've rarely seen them. Hellions right now, though, do swoop into the natural expansion. SHIN trying to make use of that new Spire cost. The Spire has become cheaper. It's also become quicker to produce. But he's losing a ton of workers in the process because of it. No roaches available. No banelings out just yet. Obviously, this could have all been avoided with better queen positioning, but 21 drones, 22 drones in total throughout this game end up going down. Obviously, that was at the cost of a substantial number of Hellions too, but I think that's about the best case scenario, especially when you're playing Terran Mech, because, well, most Mech units have a gas bottleneck rather than a mineral bottleneck, so he'll probably keep pumping those units out anyways whenever he's got excess amounts of minerals. Banshee production, by the way, does continue. Very aggressive way to start this off. The only problem right here for Nicoract is he does also force the shutdown on the 4th. Is that he doesn't know about the Spire. I say it, he scans the main base and now sees exactly what is going on. Mutalisks are coming, but honestly, this is not looking good for SHIN whatsoever. Getting pummeled to death right here in the first few minutes of the series. These Zergling run-bys have been nice and all, but now the Blue Flame upgrade is done as well. And that's gonna make the defense way, way easier. Alright. Double armory. Cyclone production. Curious. So, the Cyclone bug has been fixed. Over the last 10 months or so, we had a StarCraft 2 bug where the Cyclone basically had a lock-on that was on a shorter cooldown than it's supposed to be. Mutas are obviously going to be pretty darn good against this sort of thing, right? Are we YOLOing them in? He's sacking them just because he knows that they're going to go down eventually anyways. Once more, though, it's a distraction to really get some damage down with those Hellions. An additional 11 drones fall. That's way too much damage. 34 drones have died 8 minutes into the game. Now, the one downside for Terran Mech is that it's quite difficult to play that momentum-heavy style, right? That's what we usually see. At least with, like, Terran Bio, they go for those, like, parade pushes to the other side of the map. And in the past, you could do it as well with Cyclones and with Battle Mech in general. But I'm not so sure that it's gonna be easy to pull off right here for Nicoract. If this was, like, Stimpack combat shields plus with infantry attacks with 2 Banshees and 2, I don't know, 2 Medivacs finishing up right now, I think that would have real potential to end the game. But with Terran Mech, I don't think that's as easily achieved. So SHIN just very rapidly relaying down the creep, reproducing the drones, remaking the hatchery, of course. Another awkwardly placed Banshee is sailing by. It's not gonna live for much longer. There it goes. 5th base also coming up on the back of this, and SHIN basically doing everything he needs to recover. Because, yeah, he's analyzed correctly that this Terran army is going to be slow. It'll be a while until the Terran player maxes out. And until then, I think SHIN will be mostly left to himself. So, what is he using this time for? Well, first off, we're going into the good old Baneling Speed. We're getting the good old upgrade as well for Neural Parasite. Another 11 drones full. My god. Infestor production has begun. Hive is coming up. But yeah, this is the real issue with Mech, right? Normally, with Terran, you could just push for the win right now. Zerg really should not be taking 46 workers worth of damage pre-10 minutes. That's way too much. And he is going to try and capitalize on it, but those Cyclones are not nearly as scary as they, well, have always been over the last year or so. Yeah, I think Nicoract also being a little cautious because of it, because he knows that if he loses these units, and fungal growth could be a real problem! Okay, only 2 Hellions get caught. Maybe the next fungal, though, could become a bigger problem. As soon as these sort of units get cleaned up, Zerg can retaliate. Now, I don't think there's enough Zerg, though. Nope. Losing the Infestors would also be painful. Nice micro here across the board. Siege tank production has really kicked in now. There's already 5 of them available, 5 of them as well on the production tab. That's mostly what I think he's buying time for, but all things considered, right? This has not been a bad start right here for SHIN in the end. Just playing this as greedily as possible. And he managed to really hold that first attack there, that first real attack with a Terran army, quite nicely. And this is one of those frustration moments, right? If you're a Terran player watching this, I can imagine you get a little bit tilted, because you're like, yo, he's done like 50 workers worth of damage. The mutas have done pretty much nothing. There's more and more drones going down. Well, that's of course the larva mechanic of the Zerg in action. Keep in mind, these Hellions, those Banshees, they are not free. Greater Spire coming up for SHIN. Okay. So, Brute Lords are substantially more powerful now than they have been. They also had a bug that has been fixed, and they deal like, I don't know, I think it comes down to like a 50% additional damage now, which is pretty ridiculous. They're also far more microable than they ever have been. Siege tanks? Alright, no blinding clouds available yet. Yeah, upon seeing those clumped up units, immediately SHIN fires up a bunch of Vipers. And SHIN honestly doing a very good job playing recovery. Siege tanks over here, very clumped up. Way too far forward as well. Still though, it's an absolute meat grinder. And Roach Ravagers, of course, they're pretty much free, right? This is not a particularly expensive army. Takes way longer to be producing this many Terran units out of those factories. +1 air weapons coming up, +3 melee, we're getting Burrow. He's making a little bit of everything. We had a Hydra then as well on the production tab. Have we seen any Banelings at all? Yeah, a few of them. Oh, they must have been in that fight in the middle of the map. Now additional Banelings are indeed added into the mix. SHIN is basically saying, yo, if you're gonna play Terran Mech, another hatchery does fall. It's a nice bit of harassment. But if you're gonna be playing Terran Mech, everything's gonna move so slow. I should have all the time in the world to just get all of the tech going. Complex unit composition for Zerg already. We have Muta, Roach, Bane, Ravager, Infestor, Viper, Queen. Zergling. Overseer. Now the Terran army, though, has a solid backbone. No more Cyclones. I don't know if Cyclones really are any good right now, but look at the spread on the siege tanks. Keep in mind that with the new patch, you can no longer abduct sieged up tanks. You can still throw blinding clouds on top of them. Still, though, man, there's layer upon layer upon layer of tank, but I think that's about the best case scenario. Neural Parasites swoop in as well right when the blinding cloud wears off. And SHIN is showing us that he is not to be messed around with. One of the scariest Zerg players in the world, one of the most successful Zerg players in the world for a reason. He may have had a garbage early game. He was being a little bit overly greedy with that Spire early on. Alright, well, also a little overextension here from the Zerg. But he's still showing us that he's a world-class player, right? Not really messing around all too much. I love the mass neural parasite, it's so good. So, will we see any sort of Raven? Will we get any sort of mobile detection? No, I don't think we will. Nah, we don't do that. We go into additional command centers instead. This is the Terran standard, of course. But again, this is going to slow down Nicoract even more. Mass scan is way more reliable in theory. But we're starting to get to the point where this game has slipped out of the Terran player's hands. SHIN now has all the eco he really needs. At least he can remake it, right? He's got all the tech that you would need in like 3 games. He's even getting the Hydra speed upgrade here. Interesting. Yeah, sure, get the Hydra lunge as well. We haven't even had any Hydras, out on the battlefield. We're getting the nanomuscular swell research as well. Sure, Microbial Shroud, get it all. Ultra Cavern. We've got a Greater Spire too, by the way, but not a single Brute Lord. I think this is SHIN experimenting. We have some more neurals going down. Yeah, the siege tank spread, though, is still extremely good. Okay. I think this is very much so SHIN testing the waters a little bit. We do a little bit of this. We're doing a little bit of that. If he was a painter, he's basically arraying his palette with every single color he has. Just get a little bit of this tech. Get an Ultra Cavern, because why the hell not? Make all of the bases, replace any drones, get all of the upgrades. Bob Ross would be proud. Cheeky little Zergling over here, burrowed underneath. Cheeky little Zergling down south as well, and Nicoract trying to double expand. Now the Ultralisks are coming up, though. Microbial Shroud, by the way. I haven't really seen it used much against Terran just yet, but it seems like an absolute no-brainer. So the big change with that upgrade is that first off, you now have to research it. Secondly, it's now like 100 energy rather than 75. All of that is, well, to delay the ability coming online. It used to just impact any attacks from air. So say, for example, there would be battle cruisers. If you have a Microbial Shroud on top of your army, the units underneath the Shroud take 50% damage from any air attack. Now, they also take 50% damage from any ranged attack. Now, spoiler alert, every single one of these Terran units is ranged. So, no-brainer? Ultralisk coming up all of a sudden. Not something that the Terran player really expected. Load of Banelings also swoop through right now. SHIN has a bit of a bank, but he's not rich. Planetary Fortress does go down, though, and with it, 21 SCVs die. And, well, another command center does indeed fall. Building armor is researching right here for Nicoract. Little push through the middle of the map. Very tight choke point, by the way. I'm a little bit afraid for, like, more neural parasites. How many Vipers and Infestors do we have? 6 Infestors, 2 Vipers. He doesn't really have enough orbitals to really keep scanning. He does not know, and there we go. He does not know that those units will be coming down. We have Microbial Shrouds to reduce the damage on the Ultralisks. Dude, these Ultras suddenly don't die. They take no bloody damage from anything. GG. I think it'll be a little bit before Microbial Shroud is really going to work itself into the meta. But at least on paper, it seems like an absolute no-brainer. Ultralisks actually looked ultra cool right there at the end of that previous game. Then again, though, I can imagine that was also quite a frustrating one for the Terran, because his early game was phenomenal. Those Hellions, the Banshees, all of them dealt way more damage than you can really expect them to do. And then, well, to end up losing with your first big attack, he ended up going Cyclones. I think if that was the previous patch, maybe the fight would have looked a little bit better for him, but yeah. The problem is, right, you just lose a lot of momentum whenever you YOLO in the Hellions like that, and when you don't really have a follow-up plan, like for example you would with Terran Bio, where you can use the Medivacs to really quickly reposition your armies, right? And you can maybe use Stimpack, +1/+1 finishing, maybe like a maxed out push with +2/+2, or the potential of like a 3 command center 8 Rex all in. All of that gives you like a follow-up plan, and that is always missing with Terran Mech. Usually the next plan after dealing a lot of damage and opening up Terran Mech is to push when you're maxed out, which just gives the Zerg so much time to prepare. Obviously, you can do the same thing with Terran Bio as well, but the thing is, Zergs will have to take into consideration the alternative choices that the Terran can go for, so they can't quite be as greedy. Anyways, next up, we find ourselves on Tourmaline. tourmaline. I believe that is a stone. One of those colorful mineral-looking thingamajigs. It's also very French. Tourmaline. Is that how you pronounce it? At least in French, I would imagine. Tourmaline. Okay, according to Wikipedia, it's a crystalline silicate mineral group in which boron is compounded with elements such as aluminum, iron, magnesium, sodium, lithium, and potassium. And this gemstone comes in a wide variety of colors. There you go. Thank you for listening to my geology TED Talk. Please hit the like button. Thank you very much. I bet you didn't think that this was going to be educational when you clicked here today. Tourmaline. You know what? I can work with that. That's fine. That's fine. That's no Giganatha. That's no Maganatha. It's not of that new map that's currently part of the Team Liquid map contest finalists called literally Missing You Today. How in the world is that a name for a map? Stupid. Stupid map name. Anyway. We have the dance again with the Reaper. Third command center coming up already. And... okay, I thought for a second it was the second barracks, but no. A starport on the back of this. I think you play bio here. I've seen Nico mostly play bio. I think it's a good idea. At least lately. Maybe he played a lot of mech back in the day. I don't really know exactly all the details, but... he's certainly a competent bio player too. Oh. That awkward moment when you accidentally grenade your own Reaper. Okay. Are we gonna go speed Banshees again? I think we should. We are building a Banshee. It's a pretty expensive upgrade though, so maybe we'll see it here in just a moment when the sufficient amount of gas has been mined. Yeah, I think he forgot saturating the gas over here up north, so he doesn't have the gas for it immediately. Little bit unlucky, or maybe he did it on purpose just to delay it a little while. Okay, now we're gonna go for the cloaking upgrade instead. Fair enough. You know what? I don't mind it, right? After the first game, if you're SHIN right now, you're like, yeah, okay. I could probably, against speed Banshees, at least skip out on the spore crawlers. Right? Because I don't really need detection. Obviously, the extra anti-air is nice, but maybe you should spend the minerals that would otherwise go onto spore crawlers onto an additional queen or two instead. It's always a trade-off. If we are going to go for blind spore crawlers, we'll probably see them at latest by like 5:30 or so. Either way. We have one of them coming up. Okay, we have all of them coming up. Did I say 5:30? I meant 4:30. Usually like 4:35 is like the... if it's a really fast Banshee, you do need them over there. Either way. The Banshee with cloak should be detectable. And we are following this up with good old Marines. Alright. In the meantime, we have the lair coming together with a single Evo chamber. A Roach Warren as well at the front. Obviously, those aliens in the previous game had already raked in about a dozen, maybe 2 dozen kills at this point in time. It's one of the things that even just having a Roach Warren out, right? That's one of the things that the, well, is going to keep the Zerg bases a whole lot safer. Okay. This is the 4th hatchery of the Zerg player. SHIN taking it nice and early. Wouldn't be surprised if we're gonna maybe see an alternative one as well down south. Because I don't know if the queens are gonna be able to get over here within range. Yeah, in time. There you go. There is a lair. But we're going lair just for an infestation pit for now. Okay. Very quick infestation pit. Either this is gonna be like a 6.5 minute hive, or we're actually rushing up Infestors yet again. I mean, Microbial Shroud seemed pretty darn good in that previous game, right? So maybe a little bit of retargeting, please? Could have had like an extra 2 kills, I think. He was busy, though, microing the Hellions over here in the middle of the map. Roaches coming up. +1 armor as well, finishing here in a moment for SHIN. It means that Ultras could still be on the horizon. Again, the Hellions, though. Honestly, this is a bit of a basic series of blunders here for SHIN so far. Really taking way more damage than he should. This used to be the norm in StarCraft 2 back in the early days. We used to see Zerg players lose their mineral lines to Hellions all the time, but these days it's quite uncommon. 18 drones. Only 2 Hellions have died. I mean, it's about the perfect early game. I don't think you can really hope for much more. I'm pretty sure this is what a Terran dream looks like, man. This is what Terran players, want to have happen literally every single game. Now, though, we have a big difference compared to the previous game. Now, we've got ourselves, well, good old bio. So, no mech. This is going to be Marine Marauder, well, Medevac Siege Tank. Stimpack already done. +1/+1 already done. Combat Shields feels late. But this is an easy snipe on a base. And at this point, we're talking 4-base Terran versus 3-base Zerg. It's becoming an issue. I think SHIN should have always expanded down south. But maybe this is just a difficult area for him to acquire. This is one of those positions, right? Where if you're going up against, say for... Oh, he gets another one. That's the 3rd time. If you're playing against Clem, this game is over. If you're playing against Björn, Cure, any of the top dogs. I haven't seen Maru yet on the new patch, but I'm sure he's good as well. This game is GG for Zerg. The problem is actually closing it out is very, very hard. Throwing a game is easily done. Especially when you are the underdog coming into a series. It can still feel a little bit sketchy, but of course Nicoract by no means a new player when it comes to playing against top level, well, StarCraft 2 pros. A little bit of running. Hellions do end up getting surrounded, but the big push in the middle! That is a massive fungal growth. And that's exactly, man, what you need to avoid. SHIN is not gonna need much. Now the Zerglings and the corrosive biles can swoop in easy peasy. Siege tanks will die. Maybe he can get a 4th cancel on the base. Not the best cleanup here from the Zerg in the end. Still playable for Nicoract for sure. Still an advantage. But it's a nice little wake-up call that the top-level players are not going to just roll over and die. Blindly stimming onto creep. He hadn't seen any infestors yet, right? Blindly stimming onto creep, though, is always dangerous. SHIN has decided to now smash his piggy bank. Keep in mind, he's still on just, well, 3-base economy. He smashed his piggy bank and decided to spend it on, well, the Ultra Cavern. +2/+2 is going to finish in just a moment for the Terran. Let's see what we can do with it. I'm assuming we will still be going for a nice little attack. At least we should. Terran is a very confident-based race as well, in my mind. Like, if you're playing Terran very cautiously, it rarely goes well. Sometimes you see Terran players attacking like, oh, is it okay if I, like, medevac drop right over here? Okay, maybe I should... maybe I can unload a couple of my... No, okay, fine, I won't do that. Right? Like, we can't play Terran like that. Confidence is absolute key. But after a fungal like the one that we just saw, maybe we're a little bit overly cautious. Siege tank in the back, though, is good. We have one Chiku Roach, one Zergling joining in as well, and SHIN is looking to clean up another one. The problem is, this was only part of the Terran aggression. We also had a medevac drop down south that has now absolutely destroyed the Zerg economy. 11 minutes in. SHIN, well, he just finished up a new base. But the main and the natural are going to be running low. The 3rd base is, well, dead. And we have a heavily oversaturated 4th. In the meantime, a new command center starts up. Ultra Cavern is done. So, chitinous plating is coming. If we really want to be super safe here as Terran, I think it's a good idea to put down Liberators or, for example, Ghosts. They're a little bit better now in the new patch. But, okay, nah, this is game over. We have another beautiful fungal. And it's not for a lack of micro on SHIN's end, but he just cannot compete against this Terran's economy. And that means it all comes down to this. Final game in this best of 3 series. We find ourselves on Satellite Years. A map that I have liked so far quite a bit. But I absolutely hate the minimap. The minimap is like way overexposed. You know how like people used to post on Facebook back in like 2011? And they would like take a random picture that they took with their Samsung Galaxy S1. And then it would take the contrast and saturation slider and pull it all the way up to the very max. Like that's what you get when you look at the minimap here. It's too bright, man. Why is this yellow? I mean, the shrubs are like, if you look very carefully, there's a bit of yellow in there, I guess. These little plants over here look like rivers on the minimap. Other than that, I like the map layout. But hey, we have a lot of quality maps right now, so I'm gonna be as critical as I need to be, okay? Honestly, playing yellow on this map may actually be a life hack. Look at that. These units are difficult to spot. The Overlord over here is easy because it's laid out against some black, but... it's one of the reasons why, generally speaking, at least for tournament's sake, players are asked to play red versus blue. It's a little bit boring. Then again, if you are a player in StarCraft 2, you can standardize your opponent's colors too. So there is a color menu in StarCraft. And you can basically set it up in such a way that you are always the same color and your opponent is always the same color too, regardless of any color settings. Which is, if you're a competitive player, an absolute no-brainer, and obviously a setting that every single, well, pro gamer will be playing with. So maybe for viewers, I mean for observers, for us right over here, yeah, I like having a bit of color variety. Sometimes it can be tricky, like say it's a Zerg versus Zerg and we have like pink versus purple. That can be a little frustrating. But I think it's pretty clear that this is not a Zerg player, right? And that this over here is not Terran. Regardless of the fact that SHIN here is playing in yellow rather than in blue. Alright, here we go again. Spire, very rapidly. SHIN is now basically combining game number 1 and game number 2 in one go. He's got a Roach Warren, check. He's got a drone as well, waiting for the wall off. Check. And he's also got a super quick Spire. So the Spire now is 150, 150. Down from 200 minerals, 200 gas. And it's also quicker to build. So that basically means that you can get the mutas out a little bit faster. And it, at least in theory, becomes a slightly more viable opener. Now, one of the problems, of course, is that, yeah, there's still mutalisks. And mutas are always a little bit risky. Honestly, Nicoract's Hellion control has been really nice so far. I mean, he got a couple of creep tumor kills here. They're not showing up in the units lost because they weren't technically finished. But he's certainly been bullying his opponent very nicely with it. We should fire up the +1/+1. Stimpack is already done. Glio Reconstitution, that's Roach Speed, is finishing. There we go. Gonna finish up nice and early. Glio Reconstitution, of course, is the Roach Speed upgrade, but at this point we have 0 Roaches. Really just as a safety precaution. What about this cheeky little medevac drop? Sure. They're all half empty. But how much damage can we do? Well, against the Muta opener, I think this might be the perfect move. Nicoract sniffing out that the opponent went Mutas. He's targeting them down as well and say goodbye to those flying, what are they? Flying rats? No, not quite. Kind of look like them though. Anyways, you guys know that mutalisks fart themselves through space? Those wings are certainly not big enough to sustain a body that large. Doesn't make any sense. Anyways. Perfect attack right here, honestly, from Nicoract. Normally, I think that's a push that can be a little bit dangerous. But I mean, worst case scenario, you're going up against, like, I don't know, couple of roaches, maybe a bunch of Zerglings you can just pick up and leave. So the risk is relatively small. He knew that there was a roach warren down too, because he had seen it at the front. He saw that it was upgrading, so it's safe to assume that mutas are not going to be at the absolute earliest possibility. So he arrived right when the mutas popped. I don't know if that was luck. Sometimes luck is obviously a part of the draw too. Maybe he just got there and he's like, oh, sweet, mutas. Or if he actually successfully deduced, hey, this is what the Zerg player has to be going for right now. Either way, it puts him in a good position, but we've already seen what that does for you against somebody like SHIN. You still have to play the game out, well, very carefully. I do respect that he's not going for 8 Rexes. It's very tempting right now to play an 8 Rex here as the Terran. 8 Rex in general, very viable strategy at the highest level. Obviously, he's gonna arrive at 8 Rex eventually. Ooh, catches an overextension here from SHIN. Good job. But the 8 Rex I'm talking about is the one that you do off of 3 base. So it's an 8 Rex all in. He's a little bit late on upgrades though. Armory is done. We should see 2-2, but I think he's smelling blood. Yeah, Nicoract is smelling blood right here, right now. Okay. Ravagers are expensive. Roaches are very replaceable. Siege Tank is certainly going to fall. Right now, there's about as many Medivacs as there are bio units left on the ground. Messy, though, here for SHIN. Reinforcing Terran units are eventually going to arrive, and he did fire up 2-2 as well. 4th Command Center just about done. The only criticism that I have is the upgrades being a little bit delayed. Other than that, all of it has been very strong. Scan as well to reveal that indeed there is no 4th base over there. That must mean that we need to launch our attack towards the alternative 4th. He sees right now that the 4th has just begun, so we can pick up and get out. Yeah, pick up, get out. 100% the right call. It means that SHIN has been making non-stop units off of effectively 3 bases for ages. The muta tech has been countered very well. That means that this Roach Ravager push almost feels like a committed attack. Not much is going to be able to do, though. Baneling Nest. Infestation Pit again for Infestors. Fair enough. Nicoract honestly playing some excellent StarCraft. It's easy to choke, right, in these type of scenarios. Not the case here. Looks like we're going to get that final muta as well for our troubles. Big push in the meantime, too, straight through the center. 1 fungal growth does land. Maybe a little overly aggressive, though. He was hoping that maybe the Zerg would be distracted, and that is the type of stuff that we should not be doing. In the meantime, though, the medevac drop is still ongoing. Terran army has to retreat again with its tail between its legs. Yeah, and a few too many of those donations, and suddenly SHIN is going to be back in this game. We're like 1 fungal growth away from this game being a disaster. Hive is now coming up because of it. Siege tanks unsieged. Corrosive Bowels are going to be taking care of that easy peasy. Medivacs, of course, can be caught as well in the collateral. Is there enough right now for the Terran player to hold his ground? Here's more and more roaches coming in through the middle of the map. And what was previously looking like a win for the young Terran player may have just slipped out of his fingers. Roaches splitting themselves off to go after the SCVs. Ravagers, of course, really good at keeping these ramps contained, and that is going to allow the Zerg here to, just get rid of a load of those SCVs now. SCVs are also, Infestors are also going to be joining in. The problem is, now he realizes that there is already a 4th command center done. So maybe SHIN has been under the assumption for most of this, well, mid-game that Terran was on a 3-base all-in. But that is not the case at all. 18 SCVs go down, though. And that is significant. +3/+3 coming up as well for the Terran player. It'll make any sort of attack so much better. SHIN doesn't even have Zergling speed yet. Making slow Zerglings at this stage in the game. Maybe just to morph them into Banelings? Yeah, it's a little odd to have Baneling speed done for a while already, but not even have Zergling speed. Ghost production. Very good. Ghosts for EMPs are good, and it's a good shot as well that Zerg would go into Ultras from here. Looks like we're gonna play Ghost Liberator, so Nicoract has decided to slow this game way down. Ghost Liberator is the ultimate late game composition that Terrans usually go for with this sort of start. But obviously all of it does take a while. He's still max though. And even though these upgrades were kind of late, maybe 3-3 should already be done, you could make that argument. The upgrades are going to finish up eventually. And this is still a far more powerful Terran army than that of the Zerg. Still though, Banelings are scary. Fungal growth, another terrifying option. We should really be scanning ahead of this, because what if there's an Infestor lurking underground right now? Man, now he finally has the energy for the scan available. Infestors do not hit! Only a couple of units do get caught in the fungal growth, but that was not quite enough. Then again, though, the snipes here are pretty decent, but the Zerg seems to have overwhelming numbers. The thing is, yet again, it's a split push. Roach Attack, though, was already positioned over there as well. SHIN manages to push that away, but he does lose 10 workers in addition to the ones he had already lost. Now 3-3 is done. Now the Terran can really go for a big push. It's a significant upgrade advantage here. The Marines and the Marauders are going to be as powerful as they're ever going to be for the remainder of this game. Every single time, though, that the Terran attacks, he's going to force out a load of Banelings, which means that Zerg can't really transition to anything else. Corrosive Balls are good. One Liberator, though, still lives. Marines and Marauders are stimming through the Liberation zones. Here's the Banelings showing up, but honestly, seeing these Banelings is a good sign for the Terran. This is a please get off my lawn threat right now for the Zerg. Desperately trying to get rid of those Terran units. But Banelings are not a cost-effective troop at this stage in the game for the Zerg. More and more command centers are finishing up. Nicoract has got plenty of eco to continue sustaining these fights. Whereas SHIN is already scraping the bottom of the battle here. Do we have enough? Corrosive Balls do connect. Banelings are split against as well. Keep in mind that now that the ghosts are light, they take more damage from units like that, but I think there's enough. Yeah, I think this is plenty for defense. Honestly, this is an all-in. Yeah, GG gets cold, and just like that, the underdog gets the victory against an absolute top-level Zerg. You love to see it. Certainly, obviously, this is just one-off series, right? It's just a one-off match, but certainly a name you want to keep in the back of your mind. He's been steadily improving for like the last 7 years, and it doesn't really seem like he's showing any signs of slowing down. I mean, being able to go toe-to-toe with a top 10 player, very, very impressive.